Green Cincinnati Education Advocacy. He's also leading the charge for Earth Day in Cincinnati this year. If you look in the back, you'll see the poster. The plan is to have all 52 neighborhoods represented with a table or a booth to come and share what the Green Cincinnati plan has done for their neighborhood and just kind of bring the neighborhoods together, get them talking to each other, what can they do in their communities. Chuck is also a lead AP and has worked on many LEED certified projects throughout his career. So with that, let me pull up Chuck's presentation.
That's great that you're got a kids activity. We're always looking for kids activities at Earth Day. I wonder what that would be. You know, try to keep ice for as long as possible.
Yeah. So it seems we have the slowest computer on Earth.
So I got involved with the Green Cincinnati Education Advocacy is a brand that I started in 2009 to get involved with the U.S. Green Building Council. When I learned about it, I was really impressed with its holistic look at the environment and built environment, including both the transportation and materials, indoor air quality. I had studied architecture down at the University of Kentucky, and I really enjoyed learning about the U.S. Green Building Council. And I was able to just get involved and do some LEED projects. Green Source was a building down on 8th Street, enriching spaces. It's an office furniture place in Forest Park, and my own office, and down in Washington Park, got LEED Platinum, and so it's really exciting to work on those. And now, in 2019, I was invited by Raphael Patow, the director of the Contemporary Art Center, to help them reach their 2030 district goal of reducing energy by 50% by 2030. And how do I advance it? Just that right button.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started with all this, and that's the QR code to my website. When I got involved initially, I gave a lot of tours of LEED buildings because I started teaching classes how to pass the LEED AP exam. So the Steger Center here on UC's campus is very famous for its configuration, and especially its daylight lighting. The Cincinnati Zoo was a really fantastic example of a solar panel and rain gardens, and collecting the rainwater. Those panels use 20%, produce 20% of the electricity for the zoo. Also, the City of Cincinnati was another great place to tour and take my classes. All the fire stations that they built were LEED certified. Really great examples of all the different features of a LEED building. In the Cincinnati Public Schools, when they rebuilt so many of the schools, they required them to be LEED. So they're also great examples of pervious pavers and like the two-story construction. The Cincinnati Park Board took advantage of all the money that was available in 2009. Gerald Checo got 14 different solar panel arrays installed around the park in Cincinnati. And then I worked on this office down at Green Source. They're an HVAC broker for energy equipment like flywheels that you use to maintain the electric in your building while your generator's starting up. That's what As House started that company. It was a building built in 1875 that he renovated to live on the top floor and use the rest of it as a showroom. And this was my office in on Washington Park, and you know, I had a pellet stove. Got credit for a pellet stove. Then, like I mentioned, Rafaela invited me to help the Contemporary Arts Center reach their 2030 district goals. Quite the challenging building. Zaha Hadid, very famous Iraqi architect, taught in London for many years, and started her practice just around 2000. This was she won when this building was commissioned. She won the Pritzker Prize that year. That's given to the architect a note for that year. This is a piece of artwork in this urban carpet. So it's a very large continuous 11 stories high that curves up from the street and climbs up the back side of the building. And along that giant concrete wall are these steps that were fabricated out of aluminum by a local amusement park ride manufacturer here in town. They zigzag back and forth up that urban carpet, and it's a giant atrium that follows those staircases up the north side of the building. You know, thing about the Contemporary Arts Center is that the windows that you see are really just for the people, the offices that are the Contemporary Arts Center, and then there's a small balcony up above the dark cantilever that I call the pilot house. A little bit more about the 2030 district. There's about 24 different districts in the United States, and they're all pledges by commercial buildings in those regions to reduce their energy use by half by 2032. As you can see, you know, that some improvement so far is on that 2023 performance report. Also, if you're familiar with LEED, you'll know that ARC is a part of LEED. It's a pathway to get, you know, put your toe in the water of energy efficiency, of water efficiency, indoor air quality, human experience. So I started tracking all that information for the Contemporary Arts Center, and you know, when I did this snapshot, they had 60 out of, they needed 80 points to be able to get certified. Also, I started tracking all their energy use since 2019 in Energy Star Portfolio. You know, it's a system everybody uses to consistently measure their energy and compare it to other buildings. Well, you know, found out this shocking number that's 250 EUI. That's about a hospital or a McDonald's. You know, this building typically would use about 90 or 100 EUI. So, you know, immediately I could tell there must be something, there must be a window open, as I say. I found out about the Frankenthaler Climate Initiative. David Cave, the development director of the Contemporary Arts Center, who writes all the grants for the Art Center, told me about this opportunity. Ellen Frankenthaler was a contemporary artist, and her family created this foundation to distribute $15 million to the visual arts institutions in the United States. And another thing that I watched was Rocky Mountain Institute and World Resources Institute. As a member of the 2030 district, they fed us a lot of information about how to go about improving the energy efficiency of the building or building a solar panel array. And the thing that I learned was that you need an investment grade audit. and that's something that you can take to the bank and borrow money on. And so the Helen Frankenthaler Foundation gave us $25,000. I wrote a $25,000 grant. They gave it to us. We had HEPE Engineering do a level 3 audit, complete digital twin of the building. And they came up with these 3 different energy conservation measures, ECMs, to replace the controls for the building, to do the air balancing of the building, and then to measure the electric, and the energy used consistently throughout the year. So this is our chart in the beginning as 2019 through 2021. Actually, most of this is COVID savings because nobody was in the building. So, but the other thing from the audit we learned is that chilled water was being used even in the dead of winter, and that's been our real problem with this building, at least from what I've uncovered. It's a very sort of convoluted L-shaped building. The wall is at the top there where all those small circles are, and the galleries are projected to the south, but with no windows. The galleries look like sort of going through a white cave. So it's a very complicated building HVAC system. It has that zigzag of stairs going up the north side. Of course, there's an elevator shaft here, another large artwork elevator shaft in the northwest, and the necessary staircases. That it has 2 sets of staircases for the building. So there's just some of the different floors. The 6th floor is a classroom, and it's one of the few floors that have windows in it. This small area for the kids to look out. As part of the grant, it was the audit that HEPE did was $40,000. So they had some discretionary money with the state of Ohio Department of Economic Development to use as they saw fit for energy efficiency measures. So they tapped $15,000 from that fund and then combined it with the $25,000 I got from Frankenthaler and got the number that we needed to pay for that level 3 audit. This is the energy that I've been tracking over the last 7 years. Electricity is not our problem. Our problem is the black line, that we're continually using chilled water even in the winter. And this was another chart produced, just shows that a hospital is 221 EUI. So museums are this range here, between 50 and 100. So we're faced with trying to improve this building, this very unusual building, and I tapped on my experience. I bought this house in 2004 in Clifton. It's designed by Frank Lloyd Wright in 1956. I mentioned I wanted to be an architect, but I made my living in marketing. But this house went up for sale at auction. I was cleaning out my office and I pulled out an old copy of the Business Courier, and I saw, lo and behold, look at this. So it was Wednesday, and I went and cruised by the house, and in a week I owned it. It was a strange auction. You might know David Gosling. The Gosling family owned this house. He came here from England to teach in planning at UC because he could live in this house. He was one of those architects that became an architect because they read Frank Lloyd Wright's autobiography in 1932. So he lived in this house with his wife Miriam, and David had passed away, and Miriam wanted to sell it. And in England, it's the typical that you auction houses. However, they didn't go to Sotheby's. They went to simple auctioneers. They auction farms in Ohio, and people came to the house looking for where's the farm equipment. So it was a little discombobulated. We went to the auction. My realtor didn't go with me. My wife didn't go with me. You know, we counted up all the money that we had that we could possibly pay for this house. And so I went to the auction, and there weren't very many people there, and the bidding started happening, and it was all kind of chaotic. And before I knew it, it had been auctioned off and accepted by a young man. And I was devastated. I went home and I thought I was unlivable, unconsolable. So I called up the young man that had won the auction. And it turns out that he was bidding for somebody else. And he bid his number, but he didn't realize that they had 10% to the house. And the person he was bidding for would not go the additional 10%. So I offered him 15%, or 3% commission on the building. And like I said, a week later, we were owners of this fantastic example of Wright's architecture. It was he was working on the Guggenheim at the time, and I really felt that the Bolter House combined a lot of the characteristics that Wright designed into his buildings. This was the letter that he gave us, accepted the details of a commission. It's a 2-story house that he did that only when it was a steep site. There wasn't enough room to do a ranch style. This is what it looked like a month before we bought it. There was a giant tree in the front of the house, but that blew over the week before the auction. So we lost all of our solar shade on the south of the house. I used the house as a tool to teach my lead classes, and you might recognize some of these lead credits. I had planned on putting geothermal wells here on the street. This is just a notation about the parking capacity. This was a carport that you drove in and turned left. It was completely open when the house was constructed. So it was a little carport between this house, which was the playroom for the kids that they built after the main house was constructed. So I did some heat pictures of the house, found out where some of the heat loss was. And this is a picture of the floor. It has hot water pipes in the floor. So it's really, really great comfort in the house because of the radiant floor. The bedrooms are very, very small. We built that the house was built like a ship. These small bedrooms that were so small that to get access to the closet, which is over here, you'd have to roll the bed back underneath the desk here. Really, literally built like it was for a ship. But at the end of the house, this was Cedric's room and his study, where he wrote his books on Greek archaeology. So all this, I was responsible for trying to improve the energy efficiency of this home. We had an EUI of 90, whereas a typical home should be, 20, 30. So I proceeded to caulk everything, all the windows, all the different gaps between the concrete block and the redwood. I don't think anything had been done to the house. I learned that it was woven together in a 3-dimensional weave. The second floor was hung from the ceiling by redwood beams. These 11 massive, 20-foot tall redwood beams are all that held up the south side of the house. They, typically you can't use structural members as window frames, but they got a variance by the City of Cincinnati zoning board and allowed them to construct the house according to Mr. Wright's designs. And when you say that it's woven together, you can see the balcony from the second floor bedrooms goes right through the window on the west side of the house. There's a window there, a plate glass window that was cut out in that zigzag pattern of the siding. That became Cedric's balcony in his office. These are some of the pictures during the construction of the house. So I caulked it. Then we found out that there was nothing put in the concrete block that was on the north side of the house, which was buried into the berm behind the house. So the dirt came up to this level on the part of the house that was buried in the hillside. But the builder didn't put anything, and this is only 1 block thick on the north side of the house. So we pumped foam, it's foaming latex paint. We pumped it into the cavities that went up the columns in the concrete block wall. And that immediately caused our energy bills to go down 20%. I mean, we didn't know we were living in a screen door. I mean, this was just a 50, 60-year-old concrete block wall with all the cracks and crevices that you see in old concrete. The wind was just blowing right through the house. So that was an amazing accomplishment. I put a foot of insulation on the roof, and we had better appliances. And on the south side of the house, this big 450 square foot plate glass, I used exterior shades to shade the house during the summer, bamboo shades. But this is all while we reforested the south of the house. We planted 36 trees, and if you go there today in the summer, you can't see the house because of the trees that we planted on the south side of the house. And then once again on the east side, the window ledge went right through that window, and it was the concrete or the steel I-beam from the carport that comes into the house that makes the plant ledge. And so this UC students did a SketchUp model of this house, and you're welcome to have it if you want it. I'll send you the SketchUp model, but they used it as a class exercise to record the house as if it was a historical preservation. And it's a very detailed and accurate representation of the house. I bring all this up because now I'm faced with the same problems with the Contemporary Arts Center. What are the major problems with the Contemporary Arts Center? How can we mitigate those problems? One thing about the CAC that they changed was it was designed to be completely open at the bottom. It was supposed to be an open plaza. The museums were only supposed to start at the second floor. So would that have saved us some energy? I guess it would have. Should I? The audit that we did said that we needed new controls for the building. So we just accomplished that last December. We just got done with the air balancing of the building, and we've improved the energy efficiency 18%. Just putting in the new controls. That's just checking all the valves and switches and fixing a few little things. And then doing the air balancing, finding out the air pressure flows. So this shows that big giant concrete wall that runs up the north side of the building. And that's what I'm really intrigued about the CAC, because I finally learned, I think, all the secrets of the Bolter House after living there 15 years and literally licking every surface. Now I'm trying to understand what are the secrets. What did Zaha Hadid, want to do with this building? What Frank Lloyd Wright designed the Bolter House to be passively ventilated. There was a lot of windows on the north side. You open those up and the air would just come, the southwest winds would just come through the house, and they had beautiful doors on the south side. So I'm trying to uncover what was Zaha Hadid's and KZS Architects' plan for this building. It's just got this incredibly strange staircases that climb up the north wall, and the galleries just kind of are white boxes that almost look like caves. They're so unusually shaped, and there's little corners and dead ends around the staircases and the elevators. What was the idea behind all that? So it's a really intriguing mystery, but I think that we could save another 20% energy again this year. Just some more pictures of the inside of the building and the staircases that just Zaha Hadid, I learned just last weekend that she actually wanted to have just them to be just ramps with no steps, like Frank Lloyd Wright's Guggenheim, which is just a spiral ramp. But they wound up putting very shallow stairs in the CAC. So I just had the wrap-up meetings from Trains Controls. We just had a Zoom call and discussed the results of the install of the controls, and I found out that some alarms aren't working, the chilled water valves need to be fixed, and there's problems with the humidity of the building. Artwork needs to be between 40 and 60% relative humidity, and it has to be at 70 degrees. So there's a very strict HVAC requirements for a museum. They to get artwork lent to them, they have to meet those requirements. Just different air sensors. I mean, it's an amazing complexity of problems that they've uncovered. And I'm writing a grant now, about another grant with the Frankenthaler Institute for $100,000 to fix these things. And as much money as we're pouring into this building, because the state of Ohio gave us a grant for $268,000 to put in these new controls and do the air balancing. This was the air balancing. We found this incredible pressure drop across the filters. It's amazing. This is a real detective story about the building. We're lucky to have the original contractor that worked on the CAC to stay on to be the building manager for 20 years. He did a great job. He maintained that temperature and humidity, but there's some other really serious fundamental problems with the way this HVAC system works if it's running at a EUI of 250. So we're trying to figure out how can we change this system so that it's more efficient. So our goal is just to reduce the chilled water. We're using about $16,000 a month of chilled water. Our contract states that we need to use $6,000. If we could get that, we would save $100,000 a year on our HVAC cost, which is about $280. And we'll see how that works out. We've got a lot of people are interested in helping this building be more energy efficient. It makes a great story. It's a world famous building. And if we can do it in the Contemporary Arts Center, you know, these types of retrofits, it'll be a good example for other buildings. One unique thing that Train came up with, they did another audit to apply for another grant of maybe $750,000. They really wanted to go for the moon and solve this building's problems and also get it off of carbon. So the Train's engineers came up with the amazing idea to tap into the chilled water that's used in the building and out of the district system. So you might not know this, but Cincinnati has a loop of chilled water that goes throughout all of downtown. The CEC taps into that chilled water and uses that as it needs cooling, and then, you know, pumps it at a slightly warmer temperature back to the plant that's downtown that produces the chilled water. Train's idea was, well, you know, we'd love to put in geothermal in this building, but we can't dig wells in the basement. We can't dig wells on 6th Street. But we've got this huge amount of water coming into the building, getting pumped up to the 6th floor where the HVAC penthouse is. Why don't we tap into that? I mean, it's an incredible idea. We'll just take that water that once we've warmed it up a little bit, doing our chilling needs, we'll just loop it through, you know, an electric heat exchanger and chill it down a little bit and send it back to Coolco. No worse for wear. It's kind of like putting your electricity into the grid that I do on the solar panels on my house, but we're doing it with water. So it's a really brilliant idea. So that's where we are right now with trying to think about this building. As you can see, you know, our chilled water is the low hanging fruit here, even though it's it's a lot of money to pick that apple. This is just more of the district chilled water and more charts and graphs, and all these audits and things are available on. I have a QR code, or I keep it all on a Google Drive so that people can see what's going on. This is what we were talking about, the heat recovery chiller. If we can install something like that. And I just wanted to conclude with, I don't know whether you guys are familiar with it, but Guide 36 is a new way of looking at high performance HVAC systems that was published by ASHRAE. And one way to look at it is Guide 36 just says, if it's a nice day in the spring and the fall, turn the damn thing off. You might think it kind of ludicrous. And, you know, all the stories from the past, oh God, never turn it off. But if the humidity's low and the temperature's right, we don't need to run. We don't run the chilled water and boilers. So I like that aspect of Guide 36. But we've got to solve the fundamental problems that I've got in the building to start with. You know, we got to get the controls working properly. We've got to get all the sensors working properly. So that's where we are right now. And like I said, this is all on the drive if you're curious or we want to help. You know, I'd love to have some help. Are we good on time there, Zach?
Good on time. Got like 15 minutes.
So I just wanted to conclude with my pitch that Zach's going to be helping me with Earth Day. I'm chair of the Earth Day event. We've moved it back to Washington Park, Cincinnati, and it's part of a Green Career Fair, and it's also part of the Green Cincinnati plan, which is, we're so lucky to have this plan here in Cincinnati. This is a world-class environmental path to be much more resilient and lower the heat island effect of the city and improve the quality of life in Cincinnati. And we're going to be highlighting all of that at Earth Day. We've got the Green Career Fair in the middle around the gazebo. And up there on the civic lawn, we're going to have the neighborhoods of Cincinnati arranged as they are geographically. And that's what Zach's going to be helping with, is contacting the neighborhoods and inviting them to come attend the event and tell our guests what the Green Cincinnati plan has meant for them. There's a lot of reforestation going on, gardens, neighborhood gardens going on in Cincinnati. Clifton, their initiative was to give recycling bins to the apartment buildings in Clifton that all the students, there's no recycling bins in the apartment complexes. So that's what Clifton will be touting. And, Cincinnati has 52 neighborhoods, and they'll all be on the civic lawn. They'll be arranged in that order. They'll be showing off the flags. Every neighborhood has their own flag. But then, like I said, they'll be talking about apartment recycling and get with the program. The city's helping apartment buildings with the recycling bin. Same way they do with all the they've been given recycling started. I think it was in the mid-90s, really. So y'all have any questions?